If you want to achieve radical improvements in your business, and adding $200,000 to your net profit in 1 to 4, 5 months, 6 months is a pretty radical improvement in the business. But if you want to achieve these sort of radical improvements in your business, it means you've got to do something radically different. You've got to have a radical way of looking at business operation, the whole thing from a macro bird's eye perspective, and start really changing it at its fundamental level. And when you take that radical approach to changing a business, then you can achieve radical improvements. Now, I find a lot of business owners only want to make tiny changes in their business, but they're hoping for a wonderful, fantastic outcome, and that's pretty much impossible to have. So if you want to have a radical improvement, you've got to have a radical way of doing things different. So not that I'm doing things, the things that I sort of talk about, you'll notice they're very, very simple things. And when you just apply simple things, you can transform a business very, very rapidly, and that's what I want to show you in this webinar. So first of all, I want to talk to you about what I would like to ask you. What is the definition of success? If you had to define what success is, would it look something like this? What about enjoying $150,000 plus income? What about having a great team? Your staff become a team who work as hard as what you do, with as much dedication, as much commitment as what you do. What about being able to take a 1-month holiday, not a couple of weeks, but a full month, and pretty much anywhere you like, anywhere in the world, and not even just at the end of the year, where the middle of December to the middle of January, that sort of thing. I'm talking anytime. What about having a happy and productive team where they're enjoying their work? They look forward to coming to work, every single one of them. You have a great time, you're productive, and everyone enjoys their work. What about having a couple $100,000 in the business bank account where it's just sitting there as capital? You're not worried about money. You've got plenty of money in the business bank account for whatever your expansion plans are. You have an excellent business reputation in the marketplace, so you have a good name and people talk about your business as like a leader in the industry. And maybe you're only working a couple of days a week, and that's all the work that you need to do because your team are working hard, so you don't have to be there every day your business operates. And you've got a stress and worry-free life where life is great. Life's fantastic for you. You don't have stress, you don't have worry, and your team are looking after your business and they're looking after the customers, so you don't have to worry about doing all of that yourself. Do you think I've pretty much clearly defined definition of business success? Is there anything that you feel that I may not have included that you would like to include in that? Because I found from experience over the years, this pretty much covers what I found most people in business. If I ask them, if you could have anything, what would it be? These sort of things are the ones that they tick off and say, yes, I pretty much agree with what you're saying there. Might be a bit of a strive to achieve these things, but don't worry about if it's achievable. Focus on whether you want it to be a reality for you in your life. So if these are the sort of things that you would like, that's the things that I'd like to talk to you about achieving, because these are very, very real outcomes achieved by a lot of my clients for quite a lot of years. So let me tell you a little bit about my background so you understand who I am and what my background is. I started my first business in 1983, so it's a big 30 years now. Seems like a long time, but 30 years of owning my own business. I've partnered with 5 entrepreneurs in business. Not all partnerships have worked out. Obviously, if the first one worked out, I probably wouldn't have gone on to the others, but I have had a few partnerships with very, very switched on entrepreneurs. I wouldn't have called myself an entrepreneur when I went into business. I think some people are born that way. But I've certainly adopted entrepreneurial thinking into my makeup. So I understand things at a very high level of what that entrepreneurial thinking is all about. And that's what I train business owners on. I became a business coach in 1997, but I'd already learned a lot about great success in business before I'd sort of branched into that industry. Now, back in 1997, I found no one had actually heard of a business coach because people had asked me, what do you do? I can meet them at a Chamber of Commerce or a network meeting. They say, what do you do? I say, I'm a business coach. And they go, what on earth is a business coach? That was a common question for a few years. So I got in pretty early into the industry. I've trained 35 business coaches internationally, from England to America, in New Zealand and a lot in Australia as well. I've been a keynote speaker for over 200 business coaches at international conferences, so I understand the industry pretty well. I've trained 500 plus business clients in entrepreneurial thinking and extreme business success. And when you work with that many clients for the years that I have, you tend to hear nearly every challenge in business. And the funny thing is, it doesn't matter what the industry is, the same things keep coming up all the time. So I think there was a lot of commonality in business that you can identify when you have worked with a lot of business owners for a lot of years. I've invested over $100,000 in my own training, my own self-education, beginning way back in about, let me think, it's about 1990 is when I began, and I remember going to an E-Myth. If you've heard of Michael Gerber, the E-Myth Revisited author, I went to a workshop with him in about the year 1990, and my eyes were very much opened about working on your business, not working in your business, how to be a manager, how to be an entrepreneur, and how to be the technician, the three hats you wear when you're in business. So, and that gave me a taste of a desire to want to have so much more information at my disposal to work with business owners for my own business success and for the clients that I work with over the years. So clients have been benefiting since 1997. I got into the industry about the end of 1997 as a pioneer and started working with clients straight away in 1998. And here's one of the earliest clients I worked with. He's a builder. His name was Bernie, and in Western Sydney. And he came to me saying, I want to make more money. And I said, sure, Bernie, how do you want to make more money? I'd like more sale. I want more customers. Can you help me with some marketing to get more customers? And I said, well, Bernie, what about if we just make you a lot of money without doing much more marketing, without having to spend any money? Would that be all right, or do you really want to spend money? And Bernie wasn't real sure how to answer that question because I'd learned so much about growing business. And he said, oh, I like the idea of spending no money to make money. That sounds good. I said, all right, let's do that. And within 2 months, this is the sort of result that I've achieved. Now, you can imagine Bernie would be pretty happy with that, but it actually creates a lot of problems in a business when you triple the turnover within a couple of months, because it effectively means you need 3 times as many employees. And very few businesses I've seen can get 3 times as many employees to handle the 3 times more customers they've got within a couple of months' time frame. So this created a lot of problems for Bernie, and I learned, don't grow businesses rapidly. Think about a J-curve, not a skyrocket when it comes to growing businesses. Now, that was a long time ago when I worked with Bernie. This is a more recent client where he's a plumber and drainer, and his net profit for a financial year was $52,000 as a result of the training that I did with him. It was $128,000 for the next 6 months. So it's almost a 5-fold increase in net profit, and yet I still didn't talk to him about spending more money on marketing. So that's a more recent result where nothing happened as far as profit improvement really in the first 2 or 3 months at all. So not much growth at all, but then it started to really accelerate from about the 3rd month to the 6th month. It just started to go crazy. So his profits really started to skyrocket at that stage, but it was a J-curve process. And that's just a Sunshine Coast business, a plumber, that achieved that outcome. That was Milton. And this is a recent one a couple of years ago as well. It was a builder that came to the training saying, I'm struggling, I'm not making any money. In fact, I'm running at a loss. I'm turning over about $1.5 million. And 7 months later, his business was at a $220,000 positive profit in that time frame. So it's like a $320,000 profit turnaround in that business, where he was near bankrupt and extremely profitable, and his turnover had increased, but he was tendering for a lot of work. But without the systems and structures in place that I put in place, I said, do not go chasing more turnover until you are profitable. You'll just go broke faster. So that's an example of what you can do when you get a lot of things right in businesses that we'll talk about. And years ago, when I used to focus on turnover growth, and I just kept focusing on turnover growth and profit with that, but primarily let's get more sales. This is a client of mine that grew from a $12,000 a month to $120,000 a month in about 5, 6, 7 months. I can't remember the time frame, it's about 7 months. So it's a pretty rapid growth. It's about 1,000% increase. Now, you notice that they're smiling, and this was after that growth. They were actually, everything about the business growth was controlled. It didn't happen super fast. It was controlled. So this is back in about 2002. So in 2002, I'd figured out how to grow businesses fast without growing too fast that you can't keep up with the increase in volume of sales and things like that. And I've developed a recipe which I'll share with you as we go on what sort of steps you need to do and what order to grow a business effectively and rapidly and extremely profitably. So that's just a few case studies for you to give you an example of my history. Now I want to talk to you about the most important thing, because what I found with a lot of clients over the years is that I could work with them for, say, 6 months or 12 months. I typically work with a client one-on-one for 12 months, and I did that for 10 years. But I found that after working with them, they'd often slip back. In fact, they'd struggle and struggle and struggle, even though when I met them they were struggling. I took them completely out of struggling, and they're very, very profitable. Sometimes they'd retreat back to where they were. And this frustrated me because I wanted to see permanent improvements in my clients' businesses, not while I worked with them they had a great result, and then when I stopped working with them they went back to where they were. So I realized there was something missing, and that was a mindset that I had to change in them. I had to get them to think like an entrepreneur. And mindset is made up your personality, your beliefs, and your experiences, and that's what forms it. And that mindset that you have dictates the thoughts that you have. So your experiences dictate your thoughts, your beliefs dictate your thoughts, your personality dictates your thoughts. And so you think a certain way as a result of this combination of these three things. But the thoughts that you have are like a box that you're operating in. That's what a mindset is. It's like a box. Now, I believe we're all stuck in a box. It's just how big that box is. If we're not making $500,000 a year in profit, then we're stuck in a box. If we're not making $5 million in profit a year, we're stuck in a box. Whatever level we're at, there's always a level to get through to get through that box that we're stuck in, that mindset that we're stuck in. So I see business owners, they think a certain way, they talk a certain way, and a lot of time they're trapped by their thinking. So I go back and I work with their mindset. And when I do that, I have a radical improvement in the business long-term, years after I've worked with them. And it's been very satisfying, fulfilling for me to see a long-term improvement in the business after touching base with clients that I've had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, and they're still powering more and more all the time. So it's been great to see. So by changing their thoughts, what happens is then what they do, the type of activity that they do changes. So a lot of people say, tell me what to do, Tim. What's the magic strategy? Tell me what to do. And if I tell them I never do what I tell them because they haven't changed their thinking, they haven't changed their mindsets, and they'll debate it and think it doesn't apply to them and their business is different and it won't work, and they just talk themselves out of it because they've got skepticism as a mindset. They can't trust what I say. They doubt what I say. These are the reasons why they're not as successful as what they could be, because their mindset won't allow them to think the thoughts necessary to apply the strategies that I sort of teach. So the type of activity determines your results. And I find a lot of people in business, what they're focusing on, they believe their key strategies, often for me, are nowhere near their priority strategies. In fact, they're probably about number 20 or 50. They're nowhere near the priority I believe they should be working on, and that's why they're not getting great results. When you get clear of the strategies that you need to apply in a business, your profits and your business will grow rapidly, and profits can jump. Typically 50%, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or 500%, like I was giving an example with some of those clients, in months, sometimes in weeks. That's what can happen when you get very, very clear of what the priorities are, but you don't talk yourself out of them because of your skepticism or your doubt or trust, and these sort of things are the mindset that prevents success. And I watch people not do what I've recommended constantly because their mindset won't allow them to do what it is I recommend. They find reasons not to do it. And the easiest thing in the world to do is to find a reason why you're not going to do what will lead you to success. And you may know that yourself. You may know things right now that you know you should be doing, but you're not doing it. So why aren't you doing it? Because your mindset is incongruent with that type of activity. So business owners don't do this. They don't connect the results they're getting to their mindset. They think their results are connected to the activity, never realizing that their thoughts will sabotage the activity necessary to improve their results, and they get trapped by that. So by working with business owners one-on-one for 10 years and thinking about it, I got so frustrated, almost left the industry because I got sick of the results. I'd achieved these phenomenal results, and then 6 months or a year later the client would be struggling again. I go, what is going on with business owners? They love everything I did. They It's all proven. The P&Ls are proving the results, and then they go back to where they were. So I started to change my whole philosophy about how I work with business owners, and I found I've got to change their mindset, get them to think different, look at their beliefs, look at their experience, counteract some of the thoughts that are getting in the way of them implementing the activities that I give them, the strategies that achieve phenomenal results. And that's why in the last 7 years I've had the phenomenal results where I can talk to a client 2, 3, 5 years later and, how you going? Are you still looking at the information I gave you? Yeah, I was reading it the other day. Yeah, it's fantastic. So that gives me a lot of pride, a lot of fulfillment. So the great achievers, I've learned that pretty much all extremely successful people talk about working on their mindsets. It's not just me saying it. There are a lot of people, a lot of leaders that I meet, and these people are similar to me. They've spent 50,000 or 80,000 or 100 or 150,000 on their own education, seminars, books, workshops, mentors, and experts, and learning from all of them to change their mindset, to change their thoughts, to change their activity, to change their results. So I think it's not me alone saying this. There's definitely a lot of people in the world that are saying exactly the same thing. Work on your mindset as much as you do anything else. There are 4 challenges that pretty much prevent you from having the business and life that you want as a business owner. These are ones that have come up in a couple of thousand discussions with business owners that I've had over the years, and seminars and workshops and one-on-one and meetings. Money is a major challenge for the majority of business owners. Time is a major challenge for the majority of business owners. They often say, I don't have any time and I'm really busy right now, and things like that. Staff is a major challenge. How do I get good quality staff that are reliable, that are punctual, that turn up, that want to work as hard as what I do, ones that work when I'm not there? So these are 3 of the 4 challenges. And the 4th challenge is, how do I have enough customers so that if I have enough customers, I don't have to worry about not having enough. Now, when you don't have enough customers, then it creates other problems in the business with pricing. You're worried about not having enough customers, so then you worry about selling at a bit higher price, or you think it's time for a price rise, but you're worried about losing customers. So this worry becomes a fairly dominating thought. A lot of business owners aren't aware of the worry and the doubt and the apprehension or the fear that they actually have when they're making decisions in the business. Now, I'll give you an example here with these 4 challenges. Most business owners keep saying, I don't have any time. But if you waited a year, I almost guarantee they're saying the same thing. I don't have any time. They keep saying this, I don't have any time. It's like a mantra almost. I don't have time. I'm really busy. I'm really busy. I haven't got time. That's what they say. And most business owners keep focusing on one thing. I need more customers because customers will make me more money. Well, from my principles, what I teach business owners to achieve a radical improvement in their business is, let's not go and get you more customers. This is the highest priority. We're going to focus on something completely different. We're going to focus on improving your staff. And if we focus on improving your staff, they'll get more productive. And if they're more productive, then you'll make more profit. And it will free up your time because your staff will pull more of their weight. So by working with the staff first, it can not only free up your time, it can make you more money. Now, when you start making more money in the business, not just from team building and staff training, but from other strategies that I talk about, without even looking at getting more customers, just by focusing on internal operations of the business, you can release a lot of profit. That frees up money to pay for more employees, and that frees up 50 or even 100% of your time. And with 100% of your time free, you can now work on getting more customers because you don't need them to make more money. You've made more money by being more efficient. So these 4 challenges are common with about 90-95% of all the clients I've ever worked with over the 16 years. I'll talk about these 4 things, and I can't find good staff, so I've got to do it myself. Never seem to have any time. I've got to do it myself. Haven't got time. Money's tight. Haven't got enough customers. These are the 4 things that just kept coming up. Now, these are not industry-dependent things. These are just common across all the industries. Once you've been in business typically 3 or 4 or 5 years, and you've got a few employees, 3 or 5 employees, these 4 things keep coming up. So the good news is there are solutions to all 4 of these, and I've got clients that have permanently conquered all 4 of these challenges, and they don't have any challenge with any of these 4 at all. 0, none, gone. Now, if you don't have a challenge with any of these 4, guess how your life is as a business owner now? Because these 4 things are 4 areas of worries, concerns. niggling doubts, you could say. So let's talk about that as we go. There are 3 core skills of business success, and if you focus on developing these 3 skills, you overcome those 4 challenges. These 3 skills, it took me a long while to realize what these 3 skills are. In the last couple of years I figured it out because I studied other businesses that are very successful, and one of them was McDonald's, and I studied McDonald's and thought, what's the core essence of McDonald's extreme success? It's probably the best business in the world. It's one of the most profitable businesses in the world. So what is it that they do that other businesses don't? Well, they focus on 3 skills that top managers have too. And I thought, this is the essence of business management. First skill is they developed people skills. We need to improve our people skills as business owners. Business is all about people. Employees are people, customers are people, suppliers are people. You're one of those people. So why aren't we studying psychology before we go into business? And this one skill is the least developed of all skills generically on average across all the industries that I see. They're weakest in this one area. They don't develop their people skills. The second skill we need to have is measuring skills. We need to be excellent with numbers. Now, some entrepreneurs get away with it, but they're very good with their people skills, so they know how to get great people to take care of the measuring side. But I've found that we need to get very, very good at numbers as business owners, and that introduces things like spreadsheets and analysis and things like that. So we need to be very good at measuring. The third thing we need to be excellent at is systems, the subject of implementing systems and actually getting the people to use the systems. These 3 skills, if you look at McDonald's, and there's a really good book called Under the Golden Arches, that book is all about the journey of McDonald's through decades of evolution to get to the automated cash cow business that it actually is now, where the business owner doesn't have to turn up for work at all. They developed all 3 of these. They initially used expensive chefs to cook food in their restaurants, but they measured what they did, they systemized what they did, and then they lowered the skill sets necessary for people to do that. And by lowering their skill sets, it made a tremendous difference to the business because they paid less wages, because they weren't hiring what I call superstar employees, the ones that make you feel lucky you've employed them, that don't want to do it your way, they want to do it their way, and most business owners have superstars in it. And so you pay a lot of money in salaries, the profits go because they're not more productive than other people. That creates some challenges. So McDonald's have really worked on that. So these 3 skills, most business owners are not good with all 3. In fact, a lot of consultants you'll see are not good with all 3. Very rare you find someone who's actually really, really good at all 3, which is people skills are excellent, measuring skills are excellent, and their system skills are excellent. Sometimes they're good at 1, occasionally they're good at 2, but very few people in our society are actually excellent at all 3 in business. So we can draw a line here. What we do is if we put numbers into a business, we can hold people accountable to a number to see how they've gone every week. And you can say, hey, you've had a good week, look at the number. Yeah, there may have been a few hiccups, there may have been some good things, not so good things in the week, but that's business. What matters is the average of the week is that the numbers are excellent, that person's had a good week. So the arrow between the 2 is the accountability, and people are measuring themselves and they're getting a feedback on how they went in their own performance in the week as well. You draw an arrow to here, and what I found is that when I measure a lot of things in a business, I start seeing inconsistencies, and inconsistencies hurts a business. McDonald's is fanatically consistent. Consistency makes you predictable in the customer's eyes. The customers like businesses that are extremely consistent. And there are lots of areas of consistency a business needs, but you don't find those inefficiencies or inconsistencies unless you measure all aspects of the business. So measuring helps you to do that. And when you put a new system in place, which I've done thousands and thousands of times with strategies with clients' businesses, the client and I both get to see the system works because we're measuring it, and the numbers never lie. So I always do measuring before I do systems. And when you have systems in place, people are more accountable to either numbers or systems, and people can become the byproduct of the systems, but the people get involved with developing or improving their systems. So there's a real synergy of all 3. When you introduce all 3 of these to a very high level, phenomenal profit increases in a business just occur naturally. Now, under each of these 3 headings is sub-skills that I won't go into a lot of detail, but you need to measure certain elements of the business. There are certain people skills you need. There are certain system skills you need. I'm going to share a few of those with you now in this webinar, but just so you understand, I'm not going to teach you everything I can in one webinar. I'm just going to go through a lot of things a bit briefly. So learning these skills is how you turn self-employment into business ownership. The McDonald's owners don't have to turn up for work every day. In fact, they're lucky to turn up one day a year. They just don't need to. Some of the McDonald's store owners own multiple stores, so they don't actually go into them. If you like the idea of having a business that achieves that outcome, as a lot of my clients have, some of my clients move interstate to where their business pays them an income where they do zero work in the business at all. They may talk to the people running the business every now and again, but with these 3 skills developed at that level, that's the difference between self-employed and being a business owner. It's a question. Do you like the sound of that? Do you like the idea of actually having a business that works hard so you don't have to? So you can go home at 5 o'clock and not even give a thought to your business whatsoever, morning, night, at all, weekends, nothing, and you come back to work on Monday if you come back at all, have a long weekend. It's a pretty phenomenal lifestyle you can have as a business owner, but very few people get to that level because they're not implementing these 3 skills. They're not learning and mastering these 3 skills. So you need excellent skills with people for. Let me give you some insights. There's a subject called DISC profiles. I'll talk about that in a little while. But DISC profiles helps you to understand who out of your employees performs really well under pressure and who doesn't. People become very predictable when you study the subject called DISC profiles, so you know that as a skill. You know how to talk to your employees their ideal way, not the way you talk to everyone. You actually need to lead each person based on who they are. That means you need to communicate with each person based on who they are. And if you get better at doing this, people think you're an awesome leader and then they work harder for you. You achieve more together. How to sell them, in other words, how to persuade them on using your systems. You may have systems, but people aren't using them. Why? Because you don't know enough about this subject called DISC profiles. And understanding DISC profiles gives you great insights into aptitudes. You start to see which skills suit which roles in a business. You see where, oh, that person's going to be good at this. And I've said that to many business owners. I say, hey, that person's got natural skills in this role in your business. Put them in that role and wait and see what happens. And I go, gee, you're right. They worked out fantastic. Didn't think they had it in them. I go, well, that's because you're not aware of this thing called aptitude enough, which comes with certain personality types. They have a natural aptitude at doing certain roles in a business. If you don't know this, you put round pegs in square holes and you're wondering why no one's doing a good job in certain roles, because round peg, square hole. Another people skill we need is teaching. So if you can teach all of your employees to do what you do as well as you, what's that make you? Redundant. Do you like the idea of being redundant, where in an area of your business you got someone that's outstanding at it and you just know that if you go in there and look at what they're doing, you'll just slow them down, get in their way. It's a nice sort of thing to get to, where you don't have to have that concern of getting in someone's way, and you don't even need to look at what they're doing. They're just doing an awesome job, and your people skills are so good that you know they're doing an awesome job without actually looking at them because of their demeanor, the way they communicate to you and what they say. These are some phenomenal skills in business you can get to. Recruiting skills. Now, a lot of business owners, I say, they're kind of getting held to ransom because they've sometimes got employees that are not really pulling their weight, and they keep saying over and over the same thing to the same employees. They get frustrated with them, but they won't put them off. Why? Because they're scared, fearful, apprehensive, doubtful that they can actually replace them with someone else, so they just put up with them. Now, recruitment is something that I learned way back in 1998, that business owners all have a challenge with recruitment, because you can't really buy a recruitment system off the shelf. You've got to pay someone or try and wing it and do it yourself. It's something that I've developed over years myself by working with so many clients. I've just refined a phenomenal recruitment system that you can just drop into a business, and I don't even have to talk to you about it. It's so written, it's so refined. It's a paint by numbers set of instructions, from the ad to the interview to the second interview to the criteria of what you're going to hire them on, and it's like a logical flow process that just makes it dead easy, but it also attracts great attitude people. Now, when I've introduced it to business owners, it can totally transform the business in days and weeks, because great attitude people can have that effect in a business. But when you don't have a good recruitment system, because you don't have the skills to pick great attitude people, and you hire them and then months later you're still wondering if they're going to work out, well, wonder no more. Within any business, within 1 to maximum 2 months, it's easy to spot good attitude people that are going to perform well or not. And if they're not good within 2 months, they're not going to get better, because attitudes don't improve. Attitudes are fairly constant. So those sort of things that I like to share with business owners as well. And the other people skill that we need to have is selling, which is a basic communication skill, which is how to win more sales at higher prices. Now that's what I did with Bernie, that builder I showed you. I tripled his sales. I taught him one sales skill, and that sales skill tripled his conversion rate from inquiry to quote to sale. So from the inquiries he was getting to how many sales he was getting by teaching him a sales skill, which I'm about to talk about and tell you what that subject is. He tripled his sales a month after I taught it to him. That was the second month of working with him. The first month we measured everything. The second month I said, gee, your conversion rate's poor. Why don't I teach you how to sell? He goes, that'd be great. No more marketing costs, and tripled his turnover. So that's the power of learning some of these skills. It solves so many frustrations and stresses in your business by developing your people skills. It's the most rewarding thing you can learn in business, because you'll just get happier. It's a pretty good outcome as a business owner. All right, so here it is, the number one skill for improving profits with people skills, and it is what I just touched on. It's a thing called DISC profile. So people in this world tend to be more outgoing or more reserved. If they're outgoing, they're what we call a D for dominant or I for influence in their behavior. These people are very different to the reserved people. These people like to start things. They like to jump in and just initiate. They get an idea, they act on it. They don't think, they just pretty much jump in. So they love starting things. They love multitasking because they like starting. They'll go and start something else and start another thing, and juggle them all at the same time. But because they're great at starting, guess what they're not so great at? Finishing, attention to detail, follow through, quality control, scheduling, organizing, kind of things like that. And you probably know someone right now, while I'm saying this, that fits these sort of descriptions, because I see a lot of heads going up and down about now when I talk about this. So the reserved people, what we call steady, S for steady, or C for compliant, hence the DISC. So the reserved people like to do one thing at a time. They like to do it as a schedule. They like to do it as a routine, and they're very happy to do the repetitious over and over and over type of skills in a business. So the C's and S's are actually very well suited to doing the production side of a business, which is order fulfillment, the technical work. They're very common to see a lot of S's and C's. Very common to see a lot of I's and D's in the sales area, where there's a lot of variety and more leadership skills and confidence and friendliness skills and leadership-orientated skills are very, very relevant and important. So in businesses, based on your profile, which one you're strongest in, you're a combination of all four, it dictates the strengths and weaknesses you have in your business by your personality type. And because I understand DISC profiles very well, I already understand the inherent challenges businesses have by being able to determine a business owner's DISC profile on the phone within sometimes seconds or minutes. And it's funny how business owners are quite shocked at how accurate I am at predicting what their challenges are in the business and talking about solutions to that, purely because I've determined the DISC profile very, very rapidly. Now, this is an extreme skill that you can learn, and it's not just, oh, I wasn't born with this skill, it's something I learned. And because I can learn it, I can teach it. And I do, and I teach it to my clients like Bernie. By teaching Bernie how to sell to all four profiles completely different, his sales skills went up enormously, and in a month tripled his sales. The D's and C's of the world, the dominant compliant, are what we call task orientated, which means they prefer to be more independent, and they don't see friendliness as a necessary element of workplace relationships. That might be a customer, it might be a co-worker, it might be a business partner, it might be the boss. These people are fairly straight with people about what they want. They're not trying to be friendly and nice, and that's what the influence and steady people are. They tend to be friendly and nice people and co-workers and team-orientated, whereas the dominant, compliant, and more lone ranger and independent. So in sales, it makes a phenomenal difference if you can pick the profile of the person you're talking to, because when you can, you'll stop irritating them. When you can't pick it, your profile, whatever it is, out of the 4, is irritating to the other 3 out of 4, which is about 75% of the population. This is one of the reasons why in service and manufacturing businesses where the communication skills are critical, because the product's not selling themselves. There's got to be a person relaying what the product or service is about. Your people skills massively impacts your conversion rate and profits as a result with your marketing, return on investment, things like that, because of this one skill. So out of the hundreds and hundreds of clients I've had come through my training, my workshops, my one-on-one, extended periods, this, they all say, is the number one best thing they've learned from me, because you use it in recruitment, you use it in leadership, you use it with systems, you use it in sales, you self-reflect on your own strengths and weaknesses in the business and try and complement your strengths and weaknesses with other people to create a team. So that's something that it's been around for a long time. And I meet a lot of people say, oh, yeah, I know about DISC profiles. I go, okay, so what's my DISC profile? And that pretty much stumps them about there. So I say, you know of it, but you've never mastered it. And if you know it, do all of your employees know it? Because if they don't, they're irritating 75% of your customers as well. So to me, everyone in the business environment needs to become very, very good at DISC profiles. And when you do, you create happy customers that want to come back and tell their friends about it. And you get very productive workers because they're happy in their workplace environment. Wonderful things happen as a result of learning this best subject you can learn in business. All right, so let's talk a bit about systems. We talked a little bit about people. We'll talk about systems. We'll talk about measuring. So systems is where I consider a business to be like a machine. If you think of it as there's like these cogs that are turning in a machine, and that's your employees. They're like fulfilling the roles in the business, and the roles are like the cogs. So if you look at this is like the big round wheel, the big round cog is like the business, and within that all the cogs are busily spinning around, and right in the middle there's a big red cog. And what does that big red cog signify? The business owner. So business owners, if you take the red cog out of that, guess what happens? The cogs stop turning. And you may relate to this, where you don't turn up for work for a half a day if something happens and you can't be there for a day or a couple of days, and all of a sudden not much work's getting done. So you may relate to this a bit, but in business you can't have all the cogs hinging on one cog in the middle. The cog should engage without the big red cog in the middle for the business to operate very, very smoothly. That's what we want. So I'm a big believer that if you want to have a true business where you don't have to be there every hour it operates, instead of being self-employed where you're employing yourself and you have to be there as the best worker, then the cogs need to turn without you. And the way to get that to happen is phenomenal people skills, improving your people skills, but also to get systems into your business. So let's talk about that. The synergy of systems and people. I met some systems consultants, and they're very good with systems, but they're not very good at getting people to use the systems. Then I meet some people that are really good at team building, but then they're not very good at the system side of a business. So we're trying to integrate both of these skills in a business. So let me give you an example of that. Because some of the clients I've had over the years have been really good with systems, and often they say, Tim, you don't need to talk to me about systems. I'm quality assured, or I've fully systemized my business, or I've got a lot of systems and I don't need much help on systems. So I go, all right, let's talk about these couple of scenarios. Let's imagine that there's a gap between roles being done and a task is not being done, and when this happens you find out about it and you say, why wasn't this task done? The customer asked for this, no one followed up the customer, or this wasn't ordered, or this task wasn't done, and you say it to 2 or 3 people and they all kind of look at each other as if to say, sorry, Bob, I didn't, didn't get to, I thought someone else was going to do it. So this scenario represents when someone says, I didn't know that was me, I thought someone else was doing that, and that's a gap between roles because the systems aren't quite working. Then you have this scenario, which is where there's an overlap of roles, and you'll hear dialogue that says, how come you're doing that? Isn't that my job? I thought that was my job. I did the job last time. Now, if either of these scenarios are happening, it means that there's something missing in your business. But more importantly, these scenarios frustrate people, because if you're one of these employees working for a boss, you get frustrated when this happens. You think, why? What's going on here? There's this inconsistency. It'll just frustrate you if you're the employee. But it drops productivity because things get forgotten, overlooked, People are not clear what they're doing, and it costs you money, and customers can get let down, or you get frustrated because you expected something to be done that wasn't done. And that's what happens when the roles aren't clearly defined in a business. It costs you money and it frustrates people. Now, happy people are productive people. That's a fact, and you probably have heard that before. Now, when people say, yes, I agree with that, Tim, I go, great. So what's your happiness strategy? Because if happy people are productive people, then what are you doing to make people happy in your workplace environment? Because this is an example. We need to clearly define job descriptions, but if you just try and get stricter and tougher and more detailed job descriptions, you'll get to the point where it'll have a negative effect because people can't move without systems, and then they get frustrated because you're turning them into robots. So that doesn't work either. So what we've got to do is systemize 80%, but we've got to rely on the humans doing the other 20%. Now, the way to do that is job descriptions, but you've got to have team meetings every week with every person talking. That's a team meeting. Business owners sometimes say, I already run team meetings. I go, okay, who's in it? Oh, all my production staff. I said, no, that's not a team meeting. That's a production staff meeting, and that's more of a lecture than a meeting. A meeting is where every person talks. Otherwise, it's a lecture because you're talking and they're nodding their head a lot. Everyone must speak in a team meeting, or it is not a team. Think of a team playing sport. If some of them are playing and some aren't, that's not a team, is it? And they will get beaten on the field. So everyone must contribute. And it's the same in business. If every person is not contributing, it is not a team meeting. It's a I don't give a staff meeting, and that's not going to make any money, and it's not going to grow your business. So team meetings and job descriptions and systems is what makes your business work. If you try and put systems into a business without team meetings first, you tend to have a lot of resistance and a lot of troubles getting people to use the system, or you force them to use it. Then you get a lot of robots because they're being intimidated or criticized, and then they don't think because they have a fear of making mistakes. That creates problems. So team meetings is the glue. It's the lubrication. If I go back, between these cogs, if these are mechanical steel cogs, then they must be lubricated. And if you think of business as having cogs, which are the people must be lubricated, and communication is lubrication. Communication is lubrication in a business environment. So if these people are talking to each other regularly every week, then good things start to happen, and then you get a team starting to work together where everyone's contributing to growing the business, not just you trying to drag your team to achieve your success and your goals. So that's the key ingredient of making a business work. It's a radical change of thinking, and then nearly every person I say this to that's a business owner says, I can't do that. I haven't got time for it. I can't. It's too hard, too busy. Remember I talked about mindset and how our thinking sabotages our success? That's what I'm talking about. The things that I recommend business owners do, that when they do it, and yes, I normally spend a lot of time giving them a lot of reasons why, and I help them to make them realize that you can do it. It's not going to be that hard to do it. When I get the business owners to that point and they get the team meetings in place, wow, magic starts to happen. But yeah, it is a tough thing to get in place if you're not familiar with the process and you haven't got someone guiding you or influencing you to do it. But if you do it, it's pretty phenomenal. All right, let's talk about measuring in business and what happens in a business as it grows. I love talking to business owners that have been in business sometimes 15 or 25 years because they nod their head right about now when I start talking about this particular slide. So what happens in business is turnover tends to increase, and it doesn't really matter about the years, but just to say over a period of years, the turnover goes up. And a business may be at $500,000. Every business that's at $2 million was once $500,000 equivalent. So 10,000 a week, something like that. And this business has gone from a $500,000 turnover to a $2 million turnover in whatever the time frame is. Well, what happens is business owners tend to look at their P&Ls and go, gee, turnover's up. That's pretty good. What's my net profit? Net profit's up. Gee, business has been good. My business is growing year to year, and I sit down with my accountant, have a look at my figures, and my turnover's up, my profit's up, fantastic, business is good. And that's most people in business, that's kind of where they're at, and that's what they're thinking. But what they don't know is a management philosophy of looking at a business, because to me, those figures are not that relevant. What is relevant is the percentage, which is of the net profit. So if we divide 75,000 into the $500,000 turnover, we get a figure called the net profit margin, and margins are the percentage. When we do that, we get a 15% figure here. So at $500,000 turnover, this business was doing a 15% net profit margin. But as it's growing, it's becoming more inefficient. And this line, the turnover line and the net profit, are not parallel. If they were parallel, that would be 15%. But what happens when businesses grow? They get inefficient. And when they get inefficient, that means they're not doing as much work for what the employees are paid to do the work. Therefore, efficiency drops, and net profit margin is like the ultimate leveler of a business. It is the ultimate indicator of every business, how efficiently that business is operating in their industry. So here, it's gone from 15 to 7.5. Now, the symptoms of that are the business owner will say, I don't have much cash, I've got a cash flow problem. Actually, no. The business has a net profit margin problem, not a cash flow problem. The business didn't used to have a cash flow problem. Now it does. Why? Because the net profit margin is low. If your net profit margin is low, you will probably have a net cash flow problem in any business, no matter what it's doing. If the net profit margin is a lot higher, it tends to overcome that net profit margin challenge at the same time. So let's just have a look at some example figures. Now this is, you can see the URL down here, but here's an ANZ Bank website in Australia showing common net profit margins of businesses. So look at the manufacturers, 2%. If the turnover increase, it went to, wow, 3. Cafes and restaurants, 5%, 2%. As it increased, it went down to 2. Motor vehicle retailing, service motor vehicles, 5%. Grew the turnover, net margin gone down. Personal household retailing, 10%, down to 2%. Personal services, 7%, down to 4%. Are you starting to see what I mean? Because I've met a lot of business owners that they say, I used to have 25 staff, used to have 20 staff, now I have 4 and I'm making more money. Well, yeah, I know, because net profit margins drop when businesses grow very, very commonly. So if you remember, I talked about the 4 challenges earlier. I sort of talked about how business owners say, I need more money, so I need more customers. I go, no, you don't need more customers, because look what's happening for businesses to get more customers. Well, the turnover goes up, but what's the net profit margin doing? People can grow themselves to bankruptcy. Their turnover is going up, net profit margin is going down, run out of money, bankrupt, gone, even though their turnover went up. And a lot of people consider their business successful because they're turning over $2 or $5 million. I don't consider that a successful business. I consider a successful business one that's operating with a decent, good, solid net profit margin. That, to me, is a good business, irrespective of turnover. Because if you're turning over $10 million and you've got a 2% net margin, that's going to be extremely stressful because of the low cash reserves. If you're turning over $5 million, you've got a 20% net margin. That's a much better business than the $10 million one. So 90% of businesses, I've studied this subject in depth for many, many years, looked at P&Ls of hundreds of businesses, talked to dozens of accountants about this exact subject, and I've found from all that research that 90% of all businesses, once they get up to about that $750 million turnover, are operating with less than 10% net profit margins, and they're the ones that are typically failing in the marketplace. They say, we didn't have enough sales. I go, no, you didn't have enough money in the bank, because money in the bank is what pays your wages, not turnover. Getting a sale is not profit, that's turnover. You've got to run every cost out of your business, then what's left is profit. That's what pays the bills, that's what pays wages. So this is what's happening in business, and people aren't teaching this subject much in the market. People aren't saying, let's teach you how to increase your net profit margin irrespective of whatever your turnover is. They think, I need more money, I need to market my business, so I need to talk to someone about marketing so I can get more customers so I can make more money. But hang on, your net margin is low. So in these examples, if your net margin is 2%, you get a sale for $1,000, that means $998, is it? Not quite the right maths, but nearly every dollar that came in to the bank went straight back out to proportionally cover every cost associated with running your business. So you don't make money from getting customers. You don't make money from getting sales. You make money from increasing net profit margins. So let's have a look at that. To me, this is the primary aim of every business, to increase your net profit margins and hence net profit as a result. Not to just say, oh, I'm going to double my profits by tripling my turnover or doubling my turnover. No, we don't want to be thinking that way. So if a business is running at a 5% net margin, and a lot of the clients I've had come through my training courses are, I say, well, we're going to aim to get your net margin up. We're not even going to talk about getting more customers. We're not going to do that yet. We're going to get your net margin up. So let's get it up to 10%. If we do, we've liberated an extra $50,000 a year, because if you don't increase customers, you don't need to increase employees, which means that when that net margin goes up, it's just sitting there in the bank. You got it. It's there to spend. But what can you do with an extra $50,000 a year? Think about it. What would $50,000 allow you to do more of or do differently having an extra $50,000? It's a fair bit of money. In fact, it's more than most employee salaries that you may pay. So that means you could probably employ an additional person. And if you did, wouldn't that free up some of your time? And if we freed up your time, what could you do with it? Could you now go and learn some things about marketing yourself, because you've got lots of time to learn, and learn how to do the zero-cost marketing strategies that I love teaching business owners. I've generated millions and millions and millions in sales for my own business and my clients by zero-cost marketing. But it takes time. It doesn't take a lot of time, but it does take some time. So there's so many things you can do to make money once you start making money. Money makes money. But what if we get it up to 12% on the 1 million turnover? Liberate an extra 70 grand. That starts to get a bit more interesting. 70 grand is not a bad chunk of money. You could rebuild a whole website, get the best SEO people we can afford, not the cheap ones that are so-called experts that are poor. Go and pay a lot of money for a good one, put you up number 1, 2 or 3 in top 10 for multiple keyword phrases, and have a flood of traffic come to your website, solve those problems. Well, here's where I want to go to, and this is what I teach my business owner clients. Let's get your net profit margin up to 15%. And then we'll talk about marketing. But until you're at 15%, why are we even having the discussion about spending any money to grow your business or getting more customers or hiring more people? If you're inefficient, let's not even talk about it. Let's get it to 15. And then when you do, a little bit of turnover increase jumps the business net profit significantly. So a little 20% jump adds 30,000 to the net profit, and we've only increased the business by 20%. So we've added that much more. Whereas if we added that up here, if we did a 20% increase in the turnover here, well, we're not going to get much of an increase in net profit here at all. So why don't we do it when we're efficient? But I like to tell business owners, don't stop at 15, let's go to 20. 20, wow, 20 is, think about this, if 90% of businesses are under 10, what percentage do you think might be at 15? I'd say less than 5. And therefore, what percentage might be operating at 20% in an industry? You're talking 1 or 2% typically. There's not many businesses running at 20%, believe me. The ones that I see, the P&Ls, that's a very rare thing. But at a 20% at 1.5 mil, look at the net profit that we're cranking out now. We could give ourselves a 200,000 a year pay rise. That'd pay off the mortgage pretty quick, wouldn't it? Allow us to go on some holidays. 200,000 increase in salary and still have 50 grand in the bank, which is what we had originally when the net margin was at 5. Interesting. These are the sort of things I think business success is all about. So adding 10% to the net profit margins of business is actually very achievable, and I believe 15% is a great goal to start with. And if you're nowhere near 15, good, go for 15. If you're at 2, go for 15. If you're at 10, go for 15. If you're at 15, go for 20. But go for 15 first. That's the philosophy I have when I train business owners is let's get your margins up. And the smarter you are in management, the higher you'll get your net margin. It's just applying strategies that increase margin, not about getting more customers, just by making your business more efficient. That's the philosophy I have with business. So increasing your net profit margins, I call it is free money because you haven't got to spend money on marketing. But when you do, then your turnover and profits increase proportionally together. So I've got clients that are running at about 18%. I've got one of my clients, one of my best clients, he's doubled his turnover 4 years in a row. He's now at 25 million and his net margin's at 18%. and he said the net margin should go to over 20 next year when he hits about 35, 40 million turnover. And so he's double, and his net margin has always been over 15%, always. And that's an example of what I'm talking about. Now, he could go and he went on about a 6-week round Europe trip about a month ago. So not at Christmas when it's quiet, but in pretty much the middle of the year, he just took a 6-week trip around Europe, had a great time with his wife and child because he could. So he's got what I call freedom as an outcome in his life. Why? Because he's got the money to pay the managers to build a bulletproof business that doesn't need him, and he can take 6 weeks off to trip around wherever he wants. Would you like to know the best strategy to increase your profits? Well, I'm about to play with your mindset because what I'm going to tell you, you'll probably find it hard to accept, but I'm just amazed that 90% of all businesses I've ever seen need this one strategy, and if they did it, it would solve their problems, but they can't do it because their mindset won't let them. Put your price up by 10% Monday next week. There you go. There's your strategy. Go and do it. So right about now, your mindset, I'll be saying, oh, I can't do that. I'll lose customers. I'll drop sales. I go, man. If your turnover is 2 million and your net margin's 5 and you put your price up 10%, even if you lost half your customers and downsized proportionally and you're turning over $1 million and your net margin was 5, do you know your net margin would now be 14%, which is 140,000 net profit? So if you lost half your customers, your net profit would go from 5% on 2 million, which is, what is it? What's 5% on 1 million is 50, so it's 100,000, and it's gone from 100,000 net profit to 140, and you got half as many headaches because you've got half the employees. And that might be a terrible outcome to lose half your turnover, half your customers, but guess what? You're making more money and you got less stress. So tell me why that's not a good thing. Well, you don't have to, but this is the way I think, and it challenges people significantly. Their mindset can't handle what I'm saying, and they really stress out and get a bit wobbly about this whole subject. Now, I reassure business owners and I show you how to do it for virtually zero risk in my extended training, but that's the principle of raising your prices. Now, for 13 years, I've run free seminars for business owners, and I talk about this subject, and I go, how many people agree with what I'm saying, that they need to raise their price because maybe you're too cheap and you've absorbed some costs, you haven't passed it on, your net margin's low? How many people feel like that? And I typically get a few hands, and I'll say, okay, this is what you need to do. Put your price up 10%. You know the hardest thing about it? You got to be brave, because your fear, false evidence appearing real, will try and talk you out of doing it. The people that do it in the seminars, I say, who's going to do it? And I ask them to raise their hand. I go, give me a call in a week and let me know what happens when you did. And I remember having a lady in Townsville not only rang me, then sent me an email, a testimonial saying, I put my price up 20% and I increased my sales after putting my price up 20%. I said, So what was it costing you, that fear? Because it was just an illusion, wasn't it? So that fear was costing you a fortune because you couldn't do it before because of the fear. I put a bit of confidence into your life, and you did it, and it made you a lot of money. Now, I've had a lot of clients, I mean hundreds of clients that have had positive outcomes from doing it, and about 1% have actually had a negative outcome from doing it. 1%. Pretty good odds. All right. Let's talk about the next subject. Let's talk a bit about having some more harmony in your life as a business owner. In a business, you've got 3 things that you need to do. You need to win work, win sales. You've got to get the work. The second thing you've got to do is you've got to do the work. So the thing is you've got to get paid for the work. Now, is any one of those more important than the other? I don't think so, because isn't it equally important to be able to get the work? You might be the world's best at what you do, but if you can't get the work, you don't have any business. You don't have any customers, you don't have a business. You're out of business. Same with, there's no good doing the work and winning the work if you don't get paid, because there's nothing paying the bills, you've got no money, you go broke. So all 3 are equally important. But if I said to you, how much time have you learned as a business owner learning all 3 subjects? Typically, the doing the work is years, because that's your trade course. I've been a tradie, I was an apprentice, and then I worked for a boss, and then, I went into my own business after doing that for 8 years. Oh, okay, so you've had 8 years of training doing the work. And how much training have you done on sales and marketing? Is it 8 years? No, not that long. Okay, is it 8 months? 8 weeks, 8 hours. We're going for 8 hours. How many marketing books have you read? Most business owners haven't read one marketing book. And then I go, okay, sales training. You got to win work. That's getting the inquiry, but then it's converting the inquiries. So how many sales training courses have you been on? How many months of sales training have you done? Or how many weeks of sales training have you done? Have you been to a sales training workshop at all? And most people say no. So therefore, they're great at doing the work, terrible, really, really poor at getting the work, and then they can't get paid for work because people don't pay them. And then they get frustrated. And they hope, but they don't have strategies to get the work. They don't have strategies to win the work. They tend to stress. So I call this having a business harmony balance, where if you think of sales as you've got to get X number of sales per week, which is a dollar figure per week. Let's say you're turning over $1 million. Well, that means your sales leg is $20,000 a week, isn't it? Roughly 50 weeks of the year that you trade. So in a week, if we said, how many sales have you won in a week? What's the equivalent? Is there $20,000 worth of new work or work there waiting to be done that's come in? Because that's how long your sales leg is. If you're turning over $1 million, it's about $20,000 a week, 50 weeks in the year. Yeah. Is it measured? Now, most business owners don't measure much of anything, so they're not measuring this, so they're not saying how many new sales. And then you say, well, okay, well, how much work have we done in the week? Not invoiced, not completed, purely work done. How much work done have we done in the week? So if we've done $20,000 of work because we're a $1 million turnover business, we should see $20,000 worth of work done in the technical side of the business if we're a service manufacturing business, yeah? And have we seen $20,000 hit the bank account? Because, well, that's what we're turning over. We're turning over $1 million a year. We should be seeing $20,000 a week. Now, think of this as like a tripod, a three-legged stool that you're sitting on. What happens if one leg gets longer or one leg gets shorter? This tripod, the stool that you're sitting on, starts to lean over a bit, and then you start to worry about your business falling over or your stool falling over. And this is what happens in business. So business owners tend to stress about three often things, yeah? They're stressing about not having enough work. Oh, I haven't got enough work, I've got to go and get more work. Or they can stress about, I've got too much work, I can't get through it, I've got so much work on, I've got to work crazy hours. So they stress about too much work. Or I haven't got any money in the bank. I can't pay my bills, I'm struggling for wages, I haven't got enough money in the bank. Now, these are the three things that business owners stress about the most. But not measuring all three, that ignorance that you have no idea what your legs are doing, and it's the ignorance of not knowing in advance what is happening with the length of your legs is what creates the stress. You find out too late that you don't have enough work, you find out too late that you got too much work, or you're finding out you're not looking at where the work's coming from and tracking trends of where the work's coming from and how much work you're getting through and which employees are working the best and all these sort of things and how much money's coming in the bank. There's a lot of things you can change once you're measured, but when you're not measuring, what's there to change? You don't see the evidence that change is necessary because you're not measuring. So this is Management 101. We need to measure all three weekly, and we need to let our team, our employees know what those numbers are because they're the ones that are producing the numbers. It's not you. All of the people in your business produce all of these numbers, all of them. So the people that answer the phone, they're affecting sales. The people in the technical area, they're the production people. The people that are asking for money, the accounts people, the bookkeeping, or you're involved with it in the cash leg, or they're involved. But this is 100% involvement in the whole business. Now, if we're not measuring everyone's performance in the business, they're not accountable. They think they're doing okay. You think you're doing okay, but that's called stress. You're stressed from these three things. So we need to measure all three, but then we need to be bringing numbers into weekly team meetings. And when you do, extraordinary things start to happen. Net margins start to jump. When you measure production, you find out things that don't make you money. You measure sales, you see conversion rates are poor. You see advertising doesn't work. You measure your cash, you see the trends, you see when you need to pay bills, invoices and all that. You de-stress yourself when you measure, but if you don't measure, you're just going to have a lot of stress because it's just the whole unknown subject. Yet there's too many unknowns going on in your business, and you can't make decisions when you don't know what's going on. All right. So if you think about net profit margin as leaks in your business, so your business is like a big bucket and there's water coming into the bucket, but there's holes in the bucket. Now, how many holes is relative to your net profit margin. So after your business has done work, there's a little bit of overflow into what I call the profit bucket. Now, a lot of business owners say to me, Tim, I need to make more money. I need more customers. Oh, really? Okay. What's your net profit margin? It's pretty good. I say, what do you call pretty good? And a lot of time they don't know the answer to that question. But they don't know the conversion rates. They don't know the net profit margin. They don't know their gross margin. They don't know a lot of things. And as a result, they've got all these leaks because they're not managing their business very well. So they're not making much profit. But what they're talking to me about is, I need more customers. Oh, okay. You want to put more water into a leaky bucket. I think it'd be better to plug the holes, don't you? Because if we plug the holes in this scenario, wow, does the profit start to overflow. So that to me is a better way of thinking about the business. We need to start thinking about plugging holes. That's how you increase the profit in a business without doing more work. Because if you get more customers, your bucket has to grow. If you plug the holes, you don't need a bigger bucket. You might for the profit bucket, but you don't need for the turnover. So the lower your net profit margin, the more holes you have in a business, but the more opportunities you have for growth. So what I do is I teach business owners how to measure to identify opportunities. And when I find those opportunities, we capitalize on them and turn it into money and income for the business. So that's what I love teaching business owners how to do. So let's talk about one of the strategies of how I do that. I've got dozens of strategies. Team building is a net profit margin improving strategy. Job descriptions is a net profit margin improving strategy. There's lots and lots of strategy. Increasing conversion rates is a net profit margin improving strategy. There's lots and lots of them. So here's one that I love implementing in nearly every client's business that I work with. It's the old 80-20 rule where, let's just pick a business turning over $1 million for a nice round number. It typically has the 80-20 rule where 80% of what it does isn't that profitable, but 20% will be. So what you could see, if you were able to split it by net profit margin by the type of work that it does, you might find that 800,000, that's your 80% of turnover, might be only 3% net profit margin. And that's 24,000. So it's like you work 4 days a week, and 4 days of the week you get 24,000. Then for 1 day of the week you make the same money, and that net margin is 12%. So this is where you pull out a profit and loss statement for the year, you have a look at it, and the business says $48,000 net profit, and you turn over $1 million, and you think that's pretty good. But unfortunately, it doesn't tell you that net profit margin is 4.8%, which is low. Anything under 10% is low by my definition. 15% is good, 20% is very good, or anything over that is excellent. So most businesses have no capacity to split the type of work they do to see their net profit margin by the type of work they do. Now, if this is your business and I've just showed you this, and I showed you how to measure, and I said, hey, look, business owner, look at the figures. What would you think in response to that? In fact, that nearly all the work you're doing, 80% of it is really not making you much money at all, but some of it's making you pretty good money. 12% is pretty good. You're in that elite 10% of businesses once you get over that 10% net margin. So what would you think? Would you be sort of thinking, that's not very good. I don't like the idea of doing all that work and hardly making anything, but I do like the idea that I do make a lot on something, but I think I need to do a lot more of that 12%. That's what I'm thinking. And I'm starting to think I don't know if I would like doing 3% work, because there's not much money. 3% is almost close to zero. It's not much in that. All right. That's what we could draw a conclusion. So this is, I call it categorization of what you do. You can categorize pretty much every business into different categories that you do. So I have categories in my own business, and every business has categories. You look at an accounting firm, they can do BAS reports, they can do year-end tax returns, they can do property analysis, they can do self-managed super funds, they can do superannuation. They have typically 6 or 8 different categories of services. Now, my experience of working with countless businesses, I've lost track of the count over the years, is that every business has these types of categories. It's very rare for a business just to have one. And when you categorize, you'll see a net margin difference across the categories. Now, I like to say, instead of marketing the whole business, by marketing the whole business and getting more customers, we're still going to run a 4.8% net margin, all things being the same. Why don't we get a bit smarter and just measure first, then find what we're going to market that makes us the most profit margin, not just volume, but profit margin. So why don't we just focus on this 12% figure? Why don't we just market that 12%, 20% of the turnover figure in? And if you could do this quite easy, all you do is get the website up and put a little splash on it and say specialists in. And whatever this category of the work is that the business sells, let's really emphasize that. Because if you think about a customer, does a customer want to deal with a generalist or a specialist? Typically they want to deal with a specialist. So therefore, if we say specializing in, it makes the customer want to buy more from your business. So just by changing a little bit on your website, which might cost you a couple $100, it's not going to cost very much at all just to put a little bit of emphasis on this 12%. But by doing that and saying, well, the 3% doesn't get me excited, I actually don't really want that. So as we increase the volume on the 20% of the turnover component, I can diminish the 80% component, but at the same time maybe sneak the price up a little bit to help people to stop wanting to buy that. So let's say that we had to do this. Now, I go more radical with business owners than what I'm talking about here, but let's just say that you want to apply all this stuff in your own business right now. It's a bit tricky to do, but let's talk about that. Let's say that over 6 months with a strong focus on this type of the category of work that's the 12%. So when the phone rings, someone says, hi, I'd like to get a quote. You go, sure, be there this afternoon. You chase the work, you're keen for the work, you ask for referrals for the work, you market the work through your website. Whatever marketing you do, you just modify it. You don't do more of it, you just modify it to emphasize it. You can get that up, and I've had a lot of clients do exactly this over the years where they go from 20% of their turnover to 80 or 85 or 90% of their turnover, and then they diminish the other. They put a little bit of a price rise in, but if this is a business I'd be working with myself, I'd say you want to go way over 3% and you want to go way over 5% for that type of work that you don't want to do. You want to be up at 10% or you don't do it. But just from using this nice, simple, conservative sort of approach, look at the difference of the net profit and the net profit margin. What have we done? We've doubled it. Now, this is the exact strategy that I taught the plumber that was at the start when I talked about a testimonial, the plumber increasing profits close to 500%. Because I did this with him. I segmented his business not into 2 things, but into about 8 different categories of the type of work that he did, and he very quickly realized he was making no money out of some of the work, in fact, at a loss. Now, what happens if you stop doing things that you're running at a loss? Well, your net profits increase straight away. Your net profit margin goes up if you stop doing things at a loss. And I've had a few clients where within 2 weeks of measuring the numbers, the 1 week that it opened their eyes, the second week they confirmed they just dropped. I've had some clients drop $500,000 in a line of business that they do because they realised the net margin was so poor, it was such a loss that they just canned $500,000 worth of turnover worth of work, and that increased their average net margin instantly because they stopped losing money on an area of their business. So this is a phenomenal strategy. It's one of my best strategies. Now, if I said to you what's stopping you from doing it, what would your answer be? It's typically the fact that you don't know how to categorize your business and maybe measuring to find this net margin on everything that you do now. There is a fair bit of skill in knowing how to do that. It did take me about 10 years to figure out how to actually do that with measuring. But by doing it and showing business owners how to do it, within 1 week, 2 weeks, you'll make really confident decisions about the future of your business and where you need to market, what you need to do to grow it. It's a very powerful thing. So this is a way that I increase net margins in business without more money on marketing and without more employees. In fact, I had an engineering firm turning over $6.2 million that in the financial year at the start of the training they were doing with me was at about 4.8%. They'd never been over 5% in the last 3 years, even though the sales had gone up for $500,000 or $750,000 each year, steadily increasing turnover. The net margin was never over 4.8. 4 months later, after teaching this, 4 months later, their net margin was 12.8. They're hovering 11, 12, 13 even sometimes. They average 9.8 for the next financial year, even though they didn't start 3/4 into the financial year before they'd adopted these principles. Now, what that did for them, their business was steadily growing anyway. They went from 6.2 million turnover to 7 million. which is pretty much on par with what they'd done in the years before, but their net profit margin had increased $300,000, more than $300,000, and there are a number of employees that actually decreased. They went from 31 employees down to 25, which is certainly going to help the net margin too if you're not paying for 6 employees' salaries because your team are being more productive because they're happier from team meetings and measuring and all these sort of things. So this is the magic of what I do to grow businesses. Yes, it's contrary to what's in the marketplace. Yes, that means you've got to put a little bit of effort in to change some things. Yes, there may be a little bit of temporary stress if you like, but do you want the rewards? That's what it comes down to. Do you want the rewards that you can get? If you do, these are the things you've got to do to get them. So 2 case studies. Let's go back to our plumber a little bit. I'll give you a little bit of a breakdown. So when he came into the training, he was turning over $750,000. He had a net profit margin of 6%. He wasn't considering labour as a cost of sale in his chart of accounts because most chart of accounts are not set up by management experts. They're set up by bookkeepers or business owners or accountants, just a boilerplate, standard stuff. That's fine. But when you get into these strategies of increasing net profit margins, you need to start looking at things like that. So that's where I did that. So identified his gross and net profit margin goals for the business. I told him and taught him how to sell at a minimum gross and net profit margin and not to go below it, overcome his fear because he had some doubts about that. And by measuring, we started to find the low net profit margin jobs, which we stopped doing, and then focus on the high net margin ones. Now the difference is that he freed up a lot of time, and in that next financial year, he just had more time to go and chase better types of jobs, and his net margin to hit 18%. Now if you do the math, it's gone up about 492% if you do the math on the profit increase in that business. It's pretty substantial. So that's an example of a good case study of what this sort of information does. This is a blind manufacturer that was net margin was 5%. So I said raise your prices by 10% now, and she was scared, but I said, look, I've had so much experience, just put your price up now, don't worry about loss of sales, just do it. And she did it, and she went, oh, I didn't lose sales. The conversion rate was 30%. When I first met her, it was lower than that, but around this time, it was about 30% when we'd already increased it a little bit. And then I said, all right, I'm going to teach you a lot more about disc profiles and how to answer incoming phone calls with the people on the phone knowing disc profiles so they're not annoying potential customers. And the salespeople and the people doing the quotes were learning how not to annoy people in that quoting environment. And then that took a conversion rate up to 42. Now, a 30 to a 42% is not a 12% increase. It's closer to 40-something% because a 30 to 45 is a 50% increase, which is a 50% increase in turnover. So this business was actually motoring along pretty well. So then we worked on creating some guarantees. We put more systems in, better systems of incoming phone calls, so we got really consistent with it. We looked at systems for quoting and developed better paperwork to give customers. We got the conversion rate up to 55%, and then we raised the prices again at another 10% because I don't mind if the conversion rates are high. By putting a lot of these sort of conversion rate strategies in, you can raise the prices again, but the net profit margin went to 21%, whereas when I met the person, they were running at 5%. So we've had a massive increase, and the turnover has gone up as well. So the profits are up like 500, 600, 700% in the growth that's come from conversion rate increases. And we haven't really even talked about advertising. It's just purely by internally improving the efficiencies in the business. So that's an example. I could give you a case study, but I pretty much follow the similar sort of recipe. Sometimes I put a lot of emphasis on the conversion rate. Sometimes with this business, I didn't. This didn't come from conversion rate increase. This came from just getting a bit smarter with the type of work they're doing by really good measuring of the 3 legs that I talked about. So I follow a 7-step implementation formula. If I'm going to teach a business owner how to grow a business, what they want to do first, I need more customers. I consider that step 6. The first thing I want to do before that, or one of the things I want to do, is find out how many customers are getting. What's your conversion rate from inquiry to sale? What's your gross margin? What's your net margin? Let's measure your sales, your production, your cash flow, that 3-legged stool principle, and then we can find strategies to implement in a plan, a whole series of strategies from measuring. Measuring reveals the strategies that you need to use. You realize what actions you need to take from measuring. It's absolute proof that you have to do this or you have to do that. And it's not hope and it's not pray and it's not wish. It's just pure confidence making decisions because the numbers prove what you need to do. So achieving your goals becomes relatively easy, but before you go implementing a lot of strategies to grow the business, we need to have the systems in place. So the systems come in here at step 5. So we're developing our plan and developing our strategies. The first strategy we're going to implement, about 1 per month, because you do quality, not quantity, and then we're going to, some of those strategies will come into this heading, some of them are just straight systems. But before we do measuring, we need to do measuring to find out what's working and what's not. But before we do that, we've got to get all the employees being in a team environment where they're working together, and they have to be involved with measuring. But if you try and get measuring in before you do team building, you have a lot of resistance because the staff will say, I'm too busy, I haven't got time. And I've tried this with clients and it doesn't work. So, but before I do team building, what I found, I need to get the business owner very, very clear of what the vision is for the business. What are you trying to achieve? Where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? What do you want your life to be like? Let's get you clear of what you want to achieve as a business owner. And if we get you clear, you're going to be happier. And if you get happier, then we're going to take that happiness by clarifying your vision into your team meetings and give you some strategies that make your team happier. One of them is team meetings, how to run team meetings. By getting your team to be happier, then we can introduce measuring. By getting measuring in, we can reveal what the business needs with painful obviousness, what strategies and what actions you need to take to achieve your goals. And then we work on our job descriptions, we work on induction systems, we work on admin systems, we work on a whole lot of systems here which increases the profit growth, and then we're ready for explosive triple year sales in 1 month, 2, 6 months, whatever you want to, rate of growth you want to go. You can do that, like the bathroom innovator that grew 1,000% in 5-6 months, because I put a lot of these foundations in before we got to the explosive growth stage. And by the time you've done all that, you're preparing your business for the final phase. I call it management. It's where you're leveraging. And it could be you're hiring a manager or a general manager and completely stepping out of your business. Or it could be that you're just leveraging out of sales, leveraging out of production, and being a business development manager for your own business. Or whatever it is that you want to do, that's what we go through in step 7. So this is the implementation formula. I've tried all these out of order. Doesn't work. I've tried doing systems first, doesn't work. Tried doing sales and marketing, doesn't work. Tried doing measuring first, doesn't work. I tried doing team building first, still didn't work because I didn't get the business owner clear of their vision. This is a formula that does not change. I always use this formula because otherwise you get skyrocket growth. You grow for a bit, you go back to where you were and it didn't work. So I like J-curve growth, which is what the 7 steps does. All right, well, to give an example, people say, does this work for my industry? Well, pretty much it does, because on this list, every business on this list I personally work with has grown from 50 to 2,000% increase in sales and profit in less than 5 months, every single one of them. Now, that's only some of the clients that I've worked with over the years. So I didn't want to make the font tiny, but a lot of industries I've worked with over the years. So there's service, wholesale, manufacturing, and retail businesses. And I don't go looking for an industry. It's whoever turns up, that's the industry I work with. I don't go looking because I'm not an industry specialist. I'm a management trainer. That's my expertise, is management. It gives you an idea of this stuff works across all the different platforms. All right, so I'd like to introduce you to the Business Certainty Workshop series. It used to be called Business Freedom, but I figure it's more about giving you more certainty. A lot of business owners are unsure which employees are working and unsure which is going to be a good candidate when they're in an interview, and unsure what to price their products at, and unsure if they're making profit. They have a lot of doubt, and the doubt creates apprehension and worry and stress. So I like to give business owners a lot of certainty with all their decisions. Every facet of the whole business they have certainty on, and that makes them a lot of money. So I've renamed it the Business Certainty Workshop Series. It's the only complete training system to increase your net profit margin, conquer your time, money, staff, and growth challenges, and whatever challenge you have. And that's why my clients can move interstate and even go around the world for a couple of months and get paid a passive income for doing no work in their business. Now, Not many training programs anywhere in the world can offer that as a complete solution. And it is a system. It's not whole lots of dialoguing and me telling you to do stuff. You get to read the instructions and paint by numbers and do what it is that I talk about. So where it all begins, I always start with entrepreneurial thinking. I like to teach business owners how to think like an entrepreneur. Adjust your mindset, your preconceived ideas, your beliefs, your personality even. Expand all of these things and then get you to think very, very differently. And by doing that, then all sorts of good things happen. First thing is we define your goals and vision. What are your goals as a business owner? Now, most people, their vision is very vague. It's kind of hazy. If I say, what do you really want from your business? It'd be nice to have more time. Okay, what, 5 minutes more? Most people can't answer those questions. So I found that we need to do this as an exercise. We'll talk about how to leverage. You can leverage time. You can leverage through systems. You can leverage through marketing. You can leverage through people. You can even leverage trust if you know how. And it's not something, a lot of business owners are very skilled with leverage, and that's what entrepreneurs are excellent at, leverage. So we talk about that in the very first session. We'll talk a bit about how to automate your online marketing as well, so that you put a very little amount of time in and it just generates more work to you. So some clients that come into the training, they need clients now. So if they need clients now, go and do this. And that's just for those clients. If they're desperate, they need clients now, that's what I talk about in the first session. Setting up your thinking for success. I teach you how to think a certain way, therefore your activity, your actions fall out of the thinking, and then you are naturally heading towards success rapidly because of your thinking. It governs the activities that you take and therefore the results. So what's in the system? Well, it's 15 workshop sessions of 3 hours every fortnight. 15 sessions. So you get plenty of sessions. It's not just a quick fix. This is a slow, integrated process where you're integrating it. I teach you what to do. I give you workbooks, 9 workbooks in all, drip-fed to you slowly, one by one. And it's got the specific how-to in the workbooks. You just do exactly what it says. You haven't got to go and figure out how to solve your own problems. And that's what a lot of business coaching does. They have a big, long discussion with you, and then you've got to figure out how to solve the problem yourself, and you just don't have thinking time to do this stuff. Well, I'm taking the thinking aspect out of it and said, here, do exactly that. That's what you got to do this, copy this, paste this, go and do that. So that's what's in the training, and then we review it. I don't assume you're using it. I hold you accountable and say, well, have you done it? Why not? And this is a group training. When you have a group, you get inspired and motivated by other group members that are running with the ball on some subjects where you may not be, and vice versa. The other thing is you get a lot of attachments drip-fed to you, so you're getting email templates. You're getting all the tools and systems you need to run your business very profitably without you. You don't need to figure out how to implement the training. You're given what you're needed. So you don't have to figure out, how do I measure? I don't know how to measure. I don't know how to recruit someone. How do I know a good attitude person? How do I pick disc profiles? All that how-to is in the content. That's the beauty of this training. It's a system. What else do you get? Well, you get techniques to empower your team to free up your time, because if you want your time freed, someone else must be doing what you're doing right now. So therefore, we're going to figure out how to empower them to take up that slack, to take on more of your time. You get very refined disc profile information. There's a lot of information in the world on disc profiles, and when I was looking for it in 1997, before the internet, I couldn't find anything. So I wrote my own, and that information has stood the test of the time. It's extremely refined. In fact, I've had some clients say the 12 pages I gave them years ago, they value it at $5,000. I went, that's pretty good value for a 12-page document, because one of my clients, he went from 6 million turnover to 39 million turnover with a 19% net profit margin, pretty much from disc profile information is a big core element of that. So you use it for recruitment, you use it for sales, you use it for leadership, you use it all areas of your business. There are 5 levels of team building that we talk about, and that's all to do with running your team meetings. So the 5 levels that you go through, it's like 5 very distinct phases. And the 5th level is where your team own their systems that they're using. They're managing their systems because their role says these are your systems, and they take pride in that. They take ownership of that, and they're looking forward to seeing their numbers in team meetings every week. That's the 5th level of team building. And at the 5th level of team building, the clients that get to that 5th level by the end of this training, they often say, my staff are asking me not to come in and to find something else to do and to get a life outside of work because I'm in their way. How would you feel if your staff said, can you not come in because we're more productive without you and you're getting in our way? Can you find something else to do and take up golf or something? How would you feel if they said that to you? Because I've refined this content so well that that's the 5th level, and I actually get you to tell your team what the 5 levels are in the very first team meeting, so they're very clear of where you're trying to go together, and you work on it together, and that's exactly what can happen for you when you follow the instructions. Paint by numbers. Don't sabotage it with your mindset. Don't think that it doesn't work. It does. Just use it and it works, and that's the sort of outcome you can achieve. You get a full recruitment system. It's one thing that's a thorn in the side of a lot of clients. A lot of clients have poor attitude employees that they don't know are there, and the way I set up team building in businesses, you will see these poor attitude people. In fact, they actually don't like some of the things that I teach, and I give you a heads up on. I go, look, this thing I'm about to give you, bad attitude people won't like it. Here's the indication. These are the signs. Do it anyway. Don't get hijacked by them, and wait and see what happens. And those people often resign, and that's fantastic. You don't sack them, and they just resign. Excellent. Then I say, here's a recruitment system. Let's go and hire some great attitude people, and it lifts the whole bunch. And the productivity goes crazy as a result of doing that. Also give you influence training so your team will use the system. So when we put systems in, I'm improving your people skills of how to sell systems to your team where they want to use them, not resist it and tell you they're too busy and they just don't. So there's some real skills in learning how to get people to use systems. So that's part of it as well. We go through your P&L chart of accounts, and I'll give you some feedback on how to set up a P&L to be extremely effective. That $25 million turnover client I was talking about earlier, he has banks looking at him constantly because he's got a bit of debt, but that's good debt because it's growing the asset base of the company rapidly, and that's allowed him to double his turnover each year in the last year especially. And the way we set up the chart of accounts, it was so sophisticated, even the banks were extremely impressed. They go, wow, man, your chart of accounts are like corporate stuff. They're really, really well laid out. They were really impressed, because the subject is management accounting, and I've learned how to do this management accounting side. I'm not an accountant, but it's something that I explain why you need to do certain things, and every business owner I explain it to, they nod their head and go, yeah, you're right. Gee, I can see what difference that'd make. That'd be great. It gives you decision-making criteria. And we identify what your gross margin goal needs to be and what your net margin goal is. Even though your net margin might be 2% or 5% and you want it to be 15%, I'll give you a goal that is very carefully thought out about what your goal can be, where you're not going to take a risk on it going for that goal with your pricing and things like that. You're given easy-to-use spreadsheets. They're customized for your business. You get videos of how to use your spreadsheets as well, so you got that forever. And I talk to you one-on-one to help you to do this, what I'm talking about on this slide. I spend some time one-on-one here helping you to do each of these sort of things. So you get video training, and you get two 1-hour individual phone calls where you're getting my time one-on-one to talk about your business, your P&L, your gross margin goals, your spreadsheets, how to set them up, how to customize them, and all the spreadsheets are built. I don't have to build them. You don't have to build them. All you got to do is stick numbers in boxes, in cells, that's it, and then they reveal incredible things for your business. And then once I've introduced them to you, you can email them to me, and I can keep looking at them, giving you feedback for months as a result of you using them. So you're getting my input directly into your business of what you need to do based on what the numbers are saying. Pretty good stuff. Very valuable for your business. So when it comes to measuring that three-legged stool I was talking about, I just want to show you one of the spreadsheets. So that three-legged stool is like sales, production, and cash in the bank. So what this spreadsheet does, it graphs the last 4 weeks of your business. So you put in, all you do is put in week 1, see how it's got 19,200. We've had 16 leads for the business. We've done $19,300 worth of work, and we've got a 52% gross margin. We've banked 15,400. That's week 1. Then week 2, week 3, week 4. But if you notice down here, we're at week 5, because what it does, it drops off week 1, 2, 3, 4, and goes 5, 6, 7, 8. So it actually drops off every time you add a week. It drops off one of the weeks, so you're only seeing the last 4 weeks. But you can see the trend here. Look at the sales acceptances coming in. The sales acceptances are dropping like a rock, and the narrow one, that's the wide one, is dollars. The narrow one is the leads. The leads are dropping, the sales are dropping, and yet we're getting through the work. What does that mean? Wow, there's some real magic in what that tells you, real power. What it's saying is you're overstaffed for the amount of work you're doing, which means the cash flow is going to drop like a rock. That's what happens. from this scenario here. So this gives you, I call it bulletproof management, where it's so obvious what your business is doing as a trend, you can't not do what the numbers tell you to do. Here it's saying put people off because your leads are dropped, and there's always a delay between leads and actual sales. So therefore you need to put leads off, or you're not going to get, you're going to be overstaffed, you're going to run out of money. So that's an example of one of the spreadsheets I teach you to implement, and you get a spreadsheet of how to get all these numbers collated even before you get to this one. And if you're not measuring this, you're not really managing your business, so you're going to be stressed out a lot as a result. So what you gain from it, you get 155 proven sales, marketing, and management strategies. You get 50 plus strategies matched to your business and situation. 90% of these strategies cost zero to implement because you don't have to spend money to make money in business. That's a complete misconception. It's a fallacy. Whoever's telling you that doesn't know what they're talking about. Everything you need to have more time, more money, more productive staff, and greater certainty for every decision you make. Certainty is what gives you power and profit. So how it works, we run 3-hour sessions every fortnight. The first session, building your vision and leverage. The second one and the one after is team building and recruitment. The magic of measuring is 2 more sessions. Planning to achieve your goals is 2 more sessions. We do a breather. Week 15, halfway through, we just go over a lot of the things that we talked about. 2 more sessions on systems, 2 more on sales and marketing, 2 more on management, and then we do a final review and celebrate all the wonderful outcomes that have achieved in your business. So it's about a 7-month training, 15 sessions with a bit of a break in between Christmas. It's achieved some pretty phenomenal results. Here's a -7% net margin, a +12 on a $2 million turnover cabinet making industry. $366,000 increase in net profit. A plasterer, 1.6% net margin on $1.7 million, increase to 11.5% on a $3.2 million, $340,000 increase in net profit without even talking to him about marketing. He didn't actually get any value much from the marketing because he said, I tender for everything. I don't even have a website. I went, oh, well, that's a pretty good net margin and growth. How'd you do that? He goes, well, the 3 things you talk about, people skills, measuring, and systems. I measured everything once I learned how to do it, and I quantified and I held people accountable, replaced people that didn't work, hired about 6 people, all sorts of great things happen. Engineering company, here's the one I touched on earlier, doubled their net profit margin, went from 31 staff down to 25, so 6 less staff, yet the turnover increased, and $388,000 increase in net profit as a result. Bathroom renovator in Brisbane, he's running a 22% net margin. When I met him, he was at 17 thinking he was doing pretty good, which he was. He was probably in the top 5%. Now he's in about the top 1 or 2. And that business went on to $1.9 million the next financial year at a 22% net margin again. So it gives you an idea. It's a sustainability to it. It's not a quick fix. It keeps on improving. $172,000 increase in net profit. Here's an optometrist in the Brisbane City, and 16% to 26 on a net margin, again without talking about sales and marketing strategies, purely internal efficiencies. And here's a mortgage broker even, went from 9% net margin to 18, so doubled the net profit in the business. So hopefully you've probably seen enough of case studies and examples for you to understand the power of this and the credibility. Well, I'm looking for 5 open-minded business owners. I don't want dozens. I'm a bit selective with the type of clients I work with. I want to work with ones that are open-minded, the ones that are willing to change their mindset and embrace the changes necessary to be extremely successful for the rest of their life. And I'm looking for some minimum criteria. They need to have been in business at least 2 years, if preferably 3, but if they've got a really good attitude, I'll take them at 2, but preferably 3. Minimum turnover, 250K, because if you're not at that, you probably need to be focusing a lot on getting a good website up and good marketing just to get your volume up, and you also need very, very good sales training, because if you can't sell very well, that's the number 1 skill that's lacking in businesses when they're starting, is they don't get sales training. If you get that, that'll help you to get a lot over that turnover very quickly. So if you'd like to apply, it is a bit of a, well, sort of an application, but it's more of a discussion. I don't want to sell you on it here. I'd like to have a chat to you about your business, find out more about your business, offer some solutions to your business so you can see how my information and my experience can be applied directly into your type of business. Then there's a website for you, wprofits.tv/success. So wprofits.tv/success, and if you want to go there, you can have a look at the URL, and it'll have a bunch of questions in there, and that just gives me some background on your business, and by seeing the background of your business, I get where you're coming from, and I know a little bit more about it, and numbers and what the questions are show me the opportunities in the business, so I can talk to you about what sort of things you can do to improve your business, which I'm happy to do, and it's obligation free. I don't charge for that. I could, a fair bit of money, but I'm happy to give that time because I love helping people and because I love seeing the light shine in their eyes when you show them things that change their business and change their life. So I love doing that. So summing up what you get 45 hours of live online training, 15 sessions that is. You get 2 personal one-on-one 1-hour phone calls, and you get, well, we can be video calls. If you want to do this on video, you can. The training isn't like this. The training is everyone is talking. Everyone can see each other person on this training because I have people from different parts of Australia, but everyone can see each other's videos, so we can actually see each other talking. We can all talk with headsets. I don't want to do that in webinars for a few different reasons. It just doesn't work, but in the training it's a very different thing, and I don't have dozens and dozens of people. We've only got about 5, so it works good. You get 3 months of email spreadsheet support, so once you start implementing the spreadsheets at the Magic of Measuring, that's month 3, then you got 4 months. I'm a captive audience, so you can ask me pretty much anything you want by email, and I'll answer it. If you say, what strategies do you think I should do? I go, well, send me your spreadsheets and I'll tell you. And I go, well, look, why aren't you looking at this number and this number? And if you did this and this and this, gee, I reckon you can add about 150,000 in your net profit in the next 3 or 4 months if you did that. Would you like to get that sort of advice? Because that's exactly the sort of advice I like to give clients because of the experience that I have and understanding the numbers. You get 9 workbooks that are mailed to you one at a time. And in total, there's quite a bit of reading material in that. And it's pretty much fill in the blanks. So I go through slides like I do here, so you're filling in the blanks as you go. You get a complete team building system that makes your team very, very productive, and if that means hiring additional people or replacing people you got, it's all part of it. You get a lot of information on disc profiles for sales, for leadership, for systems, even for hiring a general manager and even for hiring supervisors or managers in your business. 600 plus pages of content in the 9 workbooks. You get the full recruitment system. If you think about the value of a recruitment system, if you pay a recruitment consultant, what's it cost you? 5,000, 7, 8, 10,000 plus. Think about the value of what a full recruitment system would be for you, so you don't actually have to ever use a recruitment consultant again for recruitment. Put a value on that and start thinking about what's included in this training and what you're getting here. A general manager recruitment system as well. It's a very, very different person if you ever want to hire a general manager, and that is included in this system. And you get a full set of management spreadsheets. CFO on call who have invited you on to this webinar, they've looked at the spreadsheets I've got and they've said that's worth the training alone. Just those spreadsheets, they're just so powerful. They're just incredible. They're very impressed with my spreadsheets. That was Sue Hurst, who's one of the directors of CFO on Call, who said that. Profit share spreadsheets. Ever thinking about profit sharing with your team? There is a right way to do it, and there's a lot of wrong ways to do it. Most people do it wrong. And I've had one of my clients that if he grew his business, he would have gone bankrupt because he'd set it up wrong in the first place, and he couldn't take it back because his staff would have run ahead of mutiny if he did. So that's pretty powerful as well. And it's something I recommend, but I only talk about that in about the very second last session, and there's a reason why. We'll talk about that in the training. So business certainty training. So the value of all this is well over $30,000. If you wanted to work one-on-one with me, my price for one-on-one is over $30,000 because I really don't want to do it because one-on-one is hard for me. Whereas in a group, I'm not selling my time on an hourly rate. On a group, it's a very, very different environment, and I can make more money, but I can actually pull the price down. So everybody wins. You get access to me, you get the full systemized training, you get the benefit of other people that you're spending time with, but the price comes down a lot. So due to it being online and in a group, you get the full 7 months training for a reduced price. But I'm only really looking for 5 businesses, and it's going to be first in, best dressed. No guarantees on when I may run another one. I don't go looking for 100 clients. I go and get how many clients I want to get when I want to get them. So I'm only looking for the first 5. So it's pretty much first in, best dressed. That's the opportunity. Special price, and it is a tax-deductible investment, the best investment you will ever make in training yourself in business, it's $1,470 per month times 7 months. So it's a bit over $10,000, but equivalent, over $36,000. The business coaches I know that had the same experience as me, which is 16 years, and the same level of results, they charge $4,000 a month for 12 months. They charge about $48,000 for what I'm doing for a bit under 10, because I'm doing it in a group. So there's the offer for you. The next steps, what would you like to do? Well, you need to apply. There's the website I showed you. I'll show you that again soon, but you need to apply, and then we'll work out a time where we can have a chat. It can be online through a video chat environment if you want to see me, and I'm happy to see you. I'm quite happy to do that. That'd be great. Or we can do it on phone, whichever one you prefer. You'll be sent a introduction video on the Business Freedom Workshop series, as it used to be called, so you can watch it and study it and get a better insight of what the training's about. You can ask me how to solve any challenges in that 1 hour time that we're going to have in your business. I won't get extremely specific because it takes me hours to really teach people how to understand a strategy at a very, very high level, but I'm happy to talk about where you need to be pointed in the direction of what you need to do to solve your business challenges. And I'm not going to hard sell. It's pretty much like we've been doing now. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions though, and the questions show me the opportunities in the business. So you have to want to attend this training. The Business Certainty training is not there if you're half-hearted. It's about making a massive difference to your whole life, because you'll be a better family member, you'll be a better husband, a better wife, a better father, a better business partner, a better boss. And if you don't want that, then that's fine. It's not for you. And I don't want you in the training if it's not for you. So you've got to want it, and you've got to want to commit to it. And if you want it and you want to commit, fantastic. Love to talk to you. Let's have a chat. We'll have a chat on the phone. And it's for people that really want to add 50 to 200,000 their net profit. Not if you want to add 10 or 20,000, just go and read a book. Go to a seminar. If you want to have a seriously big improvement in your whole business, as I said right at the start, radical improvement requires radical change. If you want to have a radical improvement in net profit, then this training will do it. And it's not hard. It's a paint by numbers. So thank you for your time. We've gone a little bit over time, so thank you for that. Thank you for investing your time with me today. As a bonus from this point on, I'd like to send you some newsletters. And those newsletters are on the 7 steps to business certainty. And you'll get a newsletter each week on each of those 7 steps that we talked about, the 7-step business growth formula, and each newsletter has very specific steps to implement at the end of the newsletter. You can unsubscribe at any time, so if you get one, you say, no, I'm not interested, that's fine. You can unsubscribe. If you don't want free information from me, I don't mind. It doesn't bother me, and I'm happy to delete any person out of the system that doesn't want to get any information from me. No questions asked. Don't have a problem with that at all. So if you're ready for extreme success, you want to be one of the 5 businesses, then apply now. The Business Certainty Workshop Series kicks off 8:30 a.m. 4th of December, and that's 8:30 Brisbane time. 4th of December, we're not going to go through the break. We'll have a break for a month in Christmas. So we'll probably do a couple of sessions, or we will do 2 sessions. So we'll do the 4th and possibly the 18th if everyone agrees to it. If they don't, we'll do a group decision as to not. If one person can't do it, we won't. But I tend to go sort of middle December to the middle of January, but that will be the very first session is the 4th of December, and you need to have paid up for the first session at least 8 days in advance of that one. The full schedule will be emailed to you. If you do the one-on-one, you want to go further, I'll give you the full schedule with all the dates, but it's going to be pretty easy. It's the same day of the week, it's the same time of the week, every second week, as just for the break at Christmas. So there's a website. If you'd like to do more, fantastic. I would love to talk to you. I love helping business owners. I love them seeing that whatever challenge they have, there's a solution. Some are far more complicated than others, but whatever your challenge, I can say, yes, that's in the training here. Or this is what you need to do to address that challenge. So if you want to make a massive difference to your business, then check it out. If you go to the old website, which is 7stepstobusiness.com.au, you'll see a bunch of video testimonials there. So it's 7 with a number 7, 7 steps, plural, to business. .com.au. You'll see some video testimonials on that website, on the testimonial page and the home page from accountants and things like that. The brand new website is Profit Transformations, which is PROFITTRANS with the number 4 M-A-T-I-O-N-S. So Profit Transformations, but instead of an F-O-R, it's got a number 4 in it. ProfitTransformations.com. That's a new website where you can start to see there's some video testimonials there. I've just recorded 4 video testimonials the other day, so I'll start getting those organised and they'll go up on the website once they're edited and you can see some more because I'm starting to collect a lot of them. So that's all for me. I hope you've enjoyed this webinar. Have you got some good ideas? Have I stimulated your thinking? Are you thinking a little bit differently towards your business? And wondering what the potential is, because put it this way, every client that I have had come into my training is a fairly bit doubtful about what sort of results I may achieve for them. They kind of think that it'd be nice to think that they can get some good results. Sometimes they say, oh, I think there's a benefit in learning some of this stuff. They really don't have a handle on how much improvement it's going to make to their business. They pretty much come in with not real great expectations. Some do, but most don't. And they're actually stunned and amazed at what sort of phenomenal improvement they can have in their businesses and what sort of things occur. And I've actually got to remind them sometimes of what a difference it may go. Look at this. Hang on, we've increased your profit 200%. Yeah, we have too, haven't we? And they don't quite realise what sort of things have happened. So it's very exciting. I love seeing that difference that they get, and the numbers don't lie, and the proof's always there with the results that I achieve. And so yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you get a lot of great information to think about with your own business and start increasing your profits as quick as you can. So I'll sign off now and go to wprofits.tv/success, fill in your form. I'll be in contact within 24 hours, line up a time for us to have a chat. And you get an hour of me, undivided, talk to me about anything you pretty much like in your business, and that's no pushiness, have a chat. If you want to do the training, that's great, and I love to have you being a great testimonial for me and seeing you achieve extreme success too. So that's all for me, and have a great day. I'll talk to you again soon.